Morning, everyone. Today I'm going to read from a book called Ceremony by Marmon Silko. And Silko is definitely one of the more highly regarded Native American writers in America. I was surprised to see that this book was published in 77. I didn't discover it until I was in grad school, which was about 15 years later. Not quite that, but the thing I loved about it from the beginning, and I hate making generalizations about Native writers or natives in particular, but I like the way she captured their narrative style. The natives I've known tell stories in a different way than I do. And this book is just captures that whole approach to storytelling in a way that I hadn't ever seen before, I think. So I'm going to read the first few pages. I'm going to apologize in advance to Miss Silko for my bad pronunciation. I tried practicing here, so. Tseitzinako, thought woman, is sitting in her room, and whatever she thinks about appears. She thought of her sisters, Nautsi'itii and Itsi'itii, and together they created the universe, this world, and the four worlds below. Thought woman, the spider, named things, and she named them, and as she named them, they appeared. She is sitting in her room, thinking of a story now. I'm telling you the story, she is thinking. Ceremony 2. I will tell you something about stories, he said. They aren't just entertainment. Don't be fooled. They are all we have, you see, all we have to fight off illness and death. You don't have anything if you don't have the stories. Their evil is mighty, but it can't stand up to our stories. So they try to destroy the stories, let the stories be confused or forgotten. They would like that. They would be happy because we would be defenseless then. He rubbed his belly. I keep them here, he said. Here, put your hand on it. See, it is moving. There is life here for the people. And in the belly of this story, the rituals and the ceremony are still growing. 3. What she said. The only cure I know is a good ceremony. That's what she said. 4. Sunrise. 5. Tayo didn't sleep well that night. He tossed in the old iron bed, and the coiled springs kept squeaking even after he lay still again, calling up humid dreams of black night and loud voices rolling him over and over again like debris caught in a flood. Tonight the singing had come first, squeaking out of the iron bed, a man singing in Spanish, the melody of a familiar love song, 2 words again and again, y volveré. Sometimes the Japanese voices came first, angry and loud, pushing the song far away, and then he could hear the shift in his dreaming, like a slight afternoon and changing its direction, coming less and less from the south, moving into the west, and the voices would become Laguna voices, and he could hear Uncle Josiah calling to him, Josiah bringing him the fever medicine when he had been sick a long time ago. But before Josiah could come, the fever voices would drift and whirl and emerge again, Japanese soldiers shouting orders to him, suffocating damp voices that drifted out in the jungle steam, and he heard the women's voices then. He faded in and out until he was frantic because he thought the Laguna words were his mother's. But when he was about to make out the meaning of the words, the voice suddenly broke into a language he could not understand, and it was then that all the voices were drowned by the music, loud, loud music from a big jukebox, its flashing red and blue lights pulling the darkness closer. He lay there early in the morning and watched the high, small window above the bed. Dark gray gradually became lighter until it cast a white square on the opposite wall at dawn. He watched the room grow brighter then, as the square of light grew steadily warmer, more yellow with the climbing sun. He had not been able to sleep for a long time, for as long as all things had become tied together like colts in single file when he and Josiah had taken them to the mountain, when the halter rope of one colt tied to the tail of the colt ahead of it, and the lead colt's rope tied to the wide horn on Josiah's Mexican saddle. He could still see them now, the creamy sorrel, the bright red bay, and the gray roan, their slick summer coats reflecting the sunlight as it came up from behind the yellow mesas, shining on them, strung out behind Josiah's horse like an old-time pack train. He could get no rest as long as the memories were tangled with the present, tangled up like colored threads from old grandma's wicker sewing basket when he was a child, and he carried them outside to play, and they had spilled out of his arms into the summer weeds and rolled away in all directions, and then he had hurried to pick them up before Auntie found him. He could feel it inside his skull, the tension of little threads being pulled and how it was with tangled things tied together, and as he tried to pull them apart and rewind them into their places, they snagged and tangled even more. So Tayo had to sweat through those nights when thoughts became entangled. He had to sweat to think of something that wasn't unraveled or tied in knots to the past, something that existed by itself, standing alone like a deer, and if he could hold that image of the deer in his mind long enough, his stomach might shiver less and let him sleep for a while. It worked as long as the deer was alone, as long as he could keep it a gray buck on an unrecognized hill. But if he did not hold it tight, it would spin away from him and become the deer he and Rocky had hunted. The memory would unwind into the last day when they sat together, oiling their rifles in the jungle of some nameless Pacific island. While they used up the last of the oil in Rocky's pack, they talked about the deer that Rocky had hunted, and the corporal next to them shook his head and kept saying he had dreamed the Japs would get them that day. Leslie Marmon Silko, it's such beautiful writing. Have a great day.